Did you ever look at Olave's legs? I mean, seriously. Now everybody was talking about that with Smith when he was drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles. But he's a fantastic route runner. This guy Olave, he's just a go out, go deep. Somebody smashes him he's done. He looks like toothpicks. I can use his legs for toothpicks.
He reminds me a lot of Deshaun Jackson, but not as fast.
No.
I don't think he's that level of a deep threat, though, either.
No,
He was always thought of more of as a shorter.
You ever listen to Greg Cosell break him down?
Mm-hmm.
And people are saying, "Oh, Olave, I like him. He's the number one guy in the class." And I respect what Greg says a lot. He's just like, "What are you guys talking about?" He's like the guy gives you, nothing physicality wise. It's, he's not going to win off the line. So really, are you going to play him on the outside? But now you've got Jarvis Landry and you got Michael Thomas. You got all these guys you need to play in the slot. If you got a guy who can't win off the line, we saw that last year with Devonta Smith.
Mm-hmm.
The great thing about A.J. Brown coming to Philadelphia is because it moves Devonta Smith off the ball, because Devonta Smith can't win in man-to-man coverage. He's too small. I mean, what are you going to do? The guy weighs 160 pounds basically out there trying to get off press man.
The Eagles need to put him in a bunch of bunch formations, like have one big guy and then the quick Devonta Smith. Right there, they complement each other well.
Yeah, I mean, their whole offense is going to be just running play action RPO slants to A.J. Brown all day long. That's the name of the game. What you saw in Tennessee, the offense is not going to be that different from what you saw in Tennessee.
I agree with you. We are talking to Pro Football Focus, Sirius XM Fantasy Football Radio Show host Brian Drake. Well, we've kept him on a long time, and we're happy to have him. He can stay on the whole show if he wants. By the way, Carl says, Crab Leg Winston, he got his LASIK surgery, guys, and he can see. Wonderful. Is that going to make him a better quarterback?
Is that going to make them the last NFC playoff team? We'll see.
I will say this.
Probably their ceiling.
I will say this about the Saints. On paper, they're still a very good team. They have Jarvis Landry. They've got weapons. I don't know who their quarterback is. Very intriguing to see where they're going to be with a new coach. Right. They don't have their top-end coach who I believe Sean Payton will be coaching the Cowboys next year. I expect that to happen, but especially with the season they're going to have this year. I just think there's no guarantees in the NFC, and in the AFC, everybody expects the AFC. Is it the West, right? With the San Diego, right?
Yep,
it's
West.
Everybody thinks that I say San Diego all the time. The LA,
I do too. I do it all the time.
Yeah, that division is supposed to be the fun division, the most explosive division. Mark my words, and I'm going to say it again. Two of those teams are going to have terrible seasons, and we're going to sit here going in at the end of the year and saying, I thought that team was going to be that good. And on paper, with what Russell Wilson did over there, with Seattle, or Justin Herbert with the talent he has, or Derek Carr having Adams there, something's going to happen. Or Patrick Mahomes losing Tyreek Hill. Something's going to happen to two of those teams that are just going to completely knock them out of the grid of making the playoffs. And we're going to be sitting there and saying, what the hell happened? That's what I think is going to happen. I believe it. I do believe it.
See, Brian, there's an easier way to mix up not having to say San Diego and LA Chargers. You just do what I do and call them the least clutch team in football.
I don't care. I don't care about the clutch. Talent sells everything, and we've seen that. Does talent make you win? No, but you have the talent. It's like we don't know what Sauce Gardner is going to be. Now, on paper, Sauce Gardner was a shutdown corner. Everybody says is the next Darrelle Revis, the next Deion Sanders. But he's got to do it on the field. He's got to prove it on the field. Just because he was that in college football playing for Cincinnati doesn't mean that he's going to go against men and do the same thing against men. So you got to put up or shut up. And if you don't do it, well, then you're taking, you're going to be 5 years trying to find that guy, another guy to fill in that position. So that's football. That's sports. There's no guarantees.
I want to just plug my podcast.
Go ahead, man.
My podcast co-host, Dwayne McFarland from Pro Football Focus, did an incredible article about what he calls the Super Stack 12. And so what he did is he went to like the Las Vegas Superbook and he looked at 92% of the game totals at or above 50 points this season belong to 10 teams, right? Mm-hmm. It's the Chiefs, Rams, Chargers, Bucks, Cardinals, Bills, Raiders, Cowboys, Packers, Bengals. The AFC West has 3 of the teams projected at 10 wins or more. The Raiders are at 8.5. Nobody else has more wins over has anybody over 10. And the AFC West and the NFC West play each other this year. That accounts for 56% of all the 50-point contests and 61% of the 10-win team matchups. So basically, like, long story short, in fantasy, you want to target teams from the AFC West and the NFC West. Because, again, in fantasy, I don't care who wins, but it's going to be a shootout because these offenses, these quarterbacks, you're going to have to score 30 to win each week. And that's why the Superbook has all these 50-point totals. So it's a really interesting way to observe fantasy football for 2022, because the worst thing in the world to do is come out of your draft, guys, and all of a sudden you look, you're like, hey, look, now I got a guy on the Jets. No offense to the Jets, but like, now you're looking, you're like, okay, I got Breece Hall, and then I've got, a guy, I got Amon-Ra St. Brown from the Lions, and I got a guy from the Jaguars, and all of a sudden you got all these crappy teams. It's like, just model your teams after the teams that are going to score a lot of points. It sounds so simplistic, but we forget it in fantasy all the time. Just, where's a good quarterback? Follow him and draft his
a team that'll play in shootouts. Actually, it's funny you brought that up because my family league, one of my uncles had that philosophy all the time with Drew Brees. When the Saints had those god-awful defenses, the Saints will be passing a lot because they're going to be either down or they're going to be in shootouts. So they always draft the Drew Brees every year because of that.
Yeah, no question about it. Drew Brees, unbelievable for fantasy. And if I'm looking at the NFC right now, another team, I want to get your take on these guys. The Green Bay Packers, right? Last year, obviously, number 1 seed. They were 13-4. You lose Devontae Adams. They have literally nothing at wide receiver right now. You've got Alan Lazard. You've got Christian Watson. You've got another rookie, Romeo Dubes. I mean, who are we throwing the ball to?
Sammy Watkins isn't going to save him?
To me, looking at that team, I go, there's no way in the world, as great as Aaron Rodgers is, he can pull that team and be 13-4 again. There's no way.
No. I think they make the playoffs. I do. They're the best team in that division still. I mean, Aaron is a transitional player. And just because on paper those players don't really stand out, like, Sammy Watkins is going to have his best season this year because Aaron Rodgers is going to be throwing him the ball.
What, per 6 games he plays?
Whatever. If he stays on the field.
Week 1. Yep. Sammy always blows up week 1.
That's true.
Draft him, play in week 1, drop his ass.
Best DFS player.
If he can stay healthy, Sammy Watkins is going to have a breakout season. Mark my words, he has over 1,200 yards this year with Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball because Aaron Rodgers is that good of a quarterback. I don't. As great as Tom Brady is, as great as Patrick Mahomes and all these guys, Justin Herbert, Aaron Rodgers is a guy that could step on the field every single week, no matter who is on the field playing with him. He makes it look so easy, and it's remarkable how good he really is. And this is not blowing and kissing Aaron Rodgers is kissing his ass. I think there's just something about him that just makes him special. We saw that in, all the great quarterbacks of our time. Joe Montana. Yeah, Joe Montana had weapons. He had great players and stuff like that. But there was just something about him. Steve Young, something about him. John Elway, something about him. Tom Brady, something about him. And there's just something, Drew Brees and Peyton Manning. There's something about this guy that just stands out from all the rest. And that's why I just think that it don't matter who he's throwing to. It really does. You can have the donut man. I mean, time to make the donuts on the field. Or you can have the, the ice cream man. What do they call him? Mr. Softy? Have him on the field. He's going to find a way to score. They're going to find a way to score and win. That's just who he is. And they have a very good running game. Dylan's there and
Aaron Jones.
Who I don't like.
I know you don't.
But they're good, dynamic running team. So they'll be good. That division stinks. Okay?
Yeah, I kind of see them more as like they're going to be a different type of team, but they're still going to win the division type team.
They'll win 11 games.
I think that's what I'm thinking too. There'll be 11 games, maybe a 3 seed, but they're going to be a little different. They're going to be more of a running tight end, I think, oriented offense, more of what LaFleur did in Tennessee, more than you saw the 3 wide receiver sets that they used to do a lot when McCarthy was there, and even the coaching staffs, the coordinators after that, where they made that kind of thing work with the 3 wide receivers when they had more depth. And the defense is still going to be very strong, too. Look how good they were last year with all those injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no question about it.
This secondary's better, too, this year. So.
Yeah.
I'm curious about – we can stay in that same division. I've been on record, and I said the number one running back in fantasy this year is going to be Dalvin Cook.
I can believe that, yeah.
If Dalvin Cook stays healthy, and you can say that about every running back in fantasy, but it's true. We're doing the Scott Fish Bowl right now. If you guys are into that in fantasy, it's like the biggest fantasy.
I know what it
football
is.
draft
I follow most of the guys, so like, oh, I got my invite this year.
Yeah, so I went and I took Christian McCaffrey was my first pick. But
Okay.
I still think just Dalvin Cook, this new offense. We're going to get out of the Stone Age with Mike Zimmer, and now we're going to use Dalvin Cook out of the backfield even more. I think you're going to be 11 personnel more. You're going to have the 3 wide receivers on the field. KJ Osborne, nice super deep sleeper for folks out there.
Oh, yeah.
Be playing in the slot. And I just love Dalvin Cook this year. And I think if you can get him into the first round, early second, maybe pair him with CeeDee Lamb, like, that's how you win in fantasy football. All the hype is Jonathan Taylor this year. Everybody's going to talk Jonathan Taylor until they're blue in the face.
Right.
Okay? Like, only one person's going to get Jonathan Taylor. You got to have a plan B for your draft. If you're drafting, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, you got to pick somebody else. Jonathan Taylor ain't going to be there. So my recommendation to folks is Dalvin Cook this year. I love what he does.
He's
with the ball
been, for the last 3 years in my big drafts, Dalvin Cook has been my number one pick. And every year he looks great the first 5 or 6 games, and then he gets hurt, and he screws
Basically, the last 2
up.
seasons, he only missed 2 games, so he's getting a little better.
Yeah,
so.
but when he came back from those injuries, he wasn't the same player.
He plays through a lot of injuries. He comes out. I remember last year he's playing. You're wondering, like, is he going to play through the game? Is Madison going to play? He's working. He's always got some ankle, some soft tissue injury. So, we'll see. But that's every running back out there. God,
I trust the modern offense to make it more. They were stuck with so many bad.
The only guy that
coordinators
doesn't
for
really get hurt
years.
until last year is Derrick Henry, and that's the guy. If you're drafting in the first round and you have a chance to draft him, Derrick Henry is going to get the beast. He's going to get the touches. He's going to get the yardage. He's the guy you're going to draft. And if you're getting a number one pick, you draft Derrick Henry. That's almost a guarantee that he's going to get you 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns.
Speaking of like top 5 area picks, where do you stand on Austin Ekeler? Because a lot of people loved him last year, and it was worth the value of where he went, like in the late first round last year. And I kind of had him in that top 3 area, but also they drafted Isaiah Spiller. So where do you stand on him?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, people say every year, oh, they're going to find a big back to take carries off of Austin Ekeler. And when you look at Austin Ekeler, what does it come down to with him? The guy scores touchdowns. And if he doesn't have the nose for the end zone that he had last year, when he had 12 touchdowns, I mean, then he's not going to pay off for you. Touchdowns are so fluky.
Yes.
So Austin Eckler's a guy I love because he does what you want your running back to do, and it's catch passes out of the backfield. The guy had 70 receptions last year. So anytime you get a running back who's going to get damn near 100 targets, you're all about it. But is he going to have 20 total touchdowns again? Probably not. But if you're playing for upside and you can get Austin Ekeler, 5th overall, to me, that's where you're in that ballpark. Do I want Austin Ekeler? Do I want Dalvin Cook? Do I want Derrick Henry? In the ballpark there. Austin Ekeler, I think the reason you give him the nod, though, is just because the chance for him to catch all those passes, especially if you're in a PPR league. But there's no way in the world he scores 20 touchdowns again. There's just no way.
Errol and I are in one of the leagues that's with one of his friends, and my team, I had so many good running backs. I literally the worst team. It was Ekeler, Swift, and Chubb, and I was literally the worst team, not the worst team, the second worst team because I had just drafted such horrible wide receivers. So if you needed a team of great running backs and not know how to manage anything else, that would be mine.
They always say the draft, your first 2 rounds draft running backs because they go fast. So and if you don't have a running back, you don't win. Because that's fantasy.
You saved the beef of that last year when he wanted to draft Mahomes.
If you're in a full PPR league, you want a running back who's going to catch passes. You still can win taking a wide receiver in the first round. You can win taking Justin Jefferson in the middle of your first round. You can win with Jamar Chase if you take him in the first round. Even if you want to take Travis Kelce, who I think is going to have a dynamic year because there's no Tyreek Hill anymore in that offense. But you're just the injuries and the flukiness of the touchdowns. You go back to Austin Ekeler last year, or the year prior. Yes, he got hurt. He only played in 10 games. He had 3 touchdowns. The year before that, he had 11 total touchdowns. But you can't count on a 20 touchdown season. It's very James Conner-ish.